So, ladies and gentlemen, the 1980 movie year had a lot of controversy, not because of how good Ordinary People was in Raging Bull. In my opinion, Ordinary People is a more coherent movie than Raging Bull. In sections, Raging Bull is a superior movie, but it's not stable all the way through. And a lot of people didn't like the way Kathy Moriarty, who played Vicky LaMotta, was treated in the movie because she slapped around. There's some scenes where she's sexualized. I think she was only 18 when she filmed the movie. This was her first film role. So how in the heck does a woman's first performance, she was just basically out of her teens, warrant a Best Supporting Actor and Golden Globe and BAFTA nomination in that the Best Supporting category? Well, let's look about some of the history. Now, Scorsese casts various people for the movie. Now, Scorsese was coming off a heavy drug overdose that almost killed him. But Scorsese wanted to cast the movie on the life of Jake LaMotta and all these machinations and his feud with Robinson, his ties with the mafia, his fall from grace. He was casting many actors and actresses new to the profession. De Niro, who had already committed to play Jake LaMotta and already won heavy recognition for his Godfather 2 performance, began to help Scorsese track down unfamiliar names to play his on-screen brother Joey and wife Vicky. The role of Joey LaMotta was the first to be cast. De Niro was watching a low-budget TV film called The Debt Collector when he saw the part of a young career criminal played by a relatively unknown Joe Pesci as an ideal candidate. Of course, he became kind of a sub-muse to Scorsese because of Goodfellas and other productions. Prior to receiving call from De Niro and Scorsese for the proposal to star in the film, Pesci had not worked in film for 4 years and was working at an Italian restaurant in New Jersey. Now here we get freaky. The role of Vicky, spelled Vicky in the final film, i.e. instead of V-I-K-K-I, Jake's second wife, had interest across the board, but it was Pesci who suggested the unknown Kathy Moriarty from a picture he saw at a New Jersey disco. Both De Niro and Scorsese believed that Moriarty, at 18 years old, could portray the role, meeting with her on several occasions and noticing her husky voice and physical maturity. The duo had to prove to the SAG that she was right for a role when Sis Corman showed 10 comparing pictures of Moriarty and a real-life Vicky for proof she had a resemblance. When Moriarty was asked to take a screen test, which he managed, it was partly aided by some improvised lines from De Niro, after some confusion, wondering why the crew was filming her take. Pesci also persuaded his former showbiz pal and co-star in The Debt Collector, Frank Vincent, to audition for a role of Salvi Batts. Following a successful audition and screen tests, Vincent received a call to say that he received a part. Charles Scorsese, the director's father, made his film debut as Tommy Cuomo's cousin Charlie. Now, while in the midst of practicing a Bronx accent and preparing for his role, De Niro met with both LaMotta and his wife Vicky on separate occasions. Vicky, who lived in Florida, told stories about her life with her former husband and showed old home movies, which later inspired a similar sequence to be done for the film. Jake LaMotta, on the other hand, served as the trainer, accompanied by Al Silvani as coach at the Gramercy Club in New York City, getting him into shape. The actor found that boxing came naturally to him. He entered as a middleweight boxer, winning 2 of his 3 fights in a Brooklyn ring dubbed Young LaMotta by the commentator. According to Jake LaMotta, De Niro was one of the top 20 best middleweight boxers of all time. Now, production started in April of 1979 at the venerable Olympic Auditorium in L.A. Grips hung huge curtains of black duotime on all 4 sides of the ring area to contain the artificial smoke, used extensively for visual effect. On May 7th, the production moved to Culver City Studio, Stage 3, and filmed there until the middle of June. Scorsese made it clear during filming that he did not appreciate the traditional way of showing fights for the spectator's view. He insisted that one camera operated by director of photography Michael Chapman would be placed inside the ring, as he would play the role of an opponent keeping out of the way of other fighters so that viewers could see the emotions of the fighters, including those of Jake. Now, there was a new trend in boxing photography that really started with the Ring magazine, and I followed that to the letter. Because of the popularity of Raging Bull and other movies, you don't shoot a boxing movie now showing the ring ropes. You shoot it inside the ring or through the ropes. Now, this gives more clarity to the subjects at hand. $1 Million Baby and the other great boxing movies of the last number of years. But you're saying to yourself, how does Kathy Moriarty end up in the movie? Like, what was her background? What allowed her to do what she was doing? Now, Moriarty was born November 29, 1960 in the Bronx borough of New York City, the daughter of Irish Catholic immigrants, Catherine, a homemaker, and John, a warehouse worker. She was raised in Yonkers, where she attended Lincoln High School. When she was 18, her friends urged her to enter a bathing beauty contest at a local bar. So I go in there, and my knees are shaking and breaking out in goosebumps because I'm embarrassed and cold. All these guys are whistling and stuff. Then all of a sudden the MC announces I won first prize. And he say, hey, this is really funny. So his Italian guy comes up and asks if he'd take my picture, and I say, sure, go ahead, because he's going to take it anyway. And what do you know? The same guy calls me 3 weeks later, says his name is Joe Pesci, and asks if I'd like to be tested for a part in this movie about a boxer named Jake LaMotta. So either Pesci took the photo and put it up, or he saw the photo, but like I said, it was there. Now, Moriarty again made her film debut in Raging Bull, getting multiple nominations for the part, playing, of course, Vicky. Now, unfortunately, an automobile accident in '82 limited her career after Raging Bull, and she said, I can only say that nobody likes an overnight success in this town. I went for a lot of interviews, auditions, even cattle calls. I tried for parts and attended meetings, but it seemed I wasn't right for any of the roles I wanted. The parts I was offered didn't appeal to me. So I paid my dues, studying acting and losing the Yonkers accent, and oh yes, I cried a lot. Now, ironically, ladies and gentlemen, her next movie was Neighbors with John Belushi, but she wasn't back into the big screen movies for almost a decade, or half decade. Eventually ended up in Kindergarten Cop. She was in Soap Dish, where she played a transgender character, great performance. Mambo Kings, The Gun in Betty Lou's Handbag, Matinee, Another Stakeout. She was in Casper, playing the villain there too. So she was getting good parts, but it never really to the level of what her performance as Vicky in Raging Bull did. And Wise Guy. But let me give you some clarity here, ladies and gentlemen. Martin Scorsese was coming off a massive drug overdose before he did Raging Bull, and he had difficulty with his wife on numerous occasions. I think what he was his original paramours. Okay, now did Scorsese enter that with a clear mind? Okay. Eventually, Robert Chertoff and Irvin Winkler were big producers. Were willing to assist only if Scorsese agreed to the movie. Now, after nearly dying from a drug overdose, Scorsese agreed to make the film, not only save his own life, but also save his career. He was pretty well down to the lowest. And you saw in Taxi Driver, when he's doing that character in the backseat of the taxi, he's putting down his wife and all that. That was what's going on here. Scorsese began to relate very personally the story of Jake LaMotta, and in it he saw the boxing ring can be an allegory for whatever you do in life, which for him paralleled movie making. You make movies, you're in the ring each time. So the movie was released in the height of the Larry Holmes era, the post-Ali era, the Sugar Ray Leonard era, the Marvin Hagler era, the Thomas Hearns era, the last of the Four Kings, Roberto Duran, the strength of the light heavyweights, and it was perfect. Now, many people could tell you that Raging Bull is a better movie than Ordinary People. All I can say is that Raging Bull is a very good movie, and for those who think it's the best movie of 1980, you're allowed to have your opinion. But you look at Ordinary People, and you're taking the America's sweetheart, Mary Tyler Moore, and you're turning into her ice queen. And you got Timothy Hutton, you got Donald Sutherland, and probably one of his best performances since Clute. You got Judd Hirsch. You got Our Lady from Ragtime, Elizabeth Montgomery. It's a very strong movie. But in De Niro's performance, he has to play Jake LaMotta all the time, and Kathy Moriarty is playing the put-up-on wife. So there's like 30 minutes of scene. Were you cheating on me? Were you cheating on me? I think you're cheating on me. And going to Pesci, was you cheating on me? It's like a half an hour to fucking movie. If you just would have had a good editor. But Scorsese at the time was going through drug withdrawal, all kind of stuff. If he made that in 1982, it would have been a better movie and it would have won an Oscar for Best Picture. But Kathy Moriarty, a good performance. Pesci wasn't Joe Pesci back then. You know, he ended up in Goodfellow, hey, Spider, shooting Spider and all that. My Cousin Vinny and all that, Casino. But Joe, we looked at that guy and I said to myself, there could be a good actor there. So for the benefits of this, if Joe Pesci wouldn't have been in Raging Bull, all the great Pesci performances since then, including Lethal Weapon because he's done comedy as well, wouldn't have been there. And De Niro reached another level later on with Goodfellas and Casino. The movie was the right place, right time, but all the factors were kind of weird. And it kind of played down to mafia involvement in boxing, which I didn't appreciate, because Joey Girardello and, Sugar Ray Robinson, Cerdan, all that is kind of fuzzing the facts. If you're a real boxing fan, Rocky talked about the club fighters, like the Chuck Wepner era. It was all fiction, but it was motivated by that. He even had Pedro Lavelle in there too, probably one of the best non-heavyweight champions of the 1970s, did a lot of club fights. But Raging Bull, I look at it Tubi, just to prepare for this, as 2 hours and 9 minutes. So if you got to re-edit some scenes, and we knew De Niro was going to win Best Actor because he had gained a bunch of weight to play Jake as older, being in prison for, sexual deviancy or whatever. But the funny part is, where was Joe Pesci's Academy Award nomination for this performance? Or victory, you know what I'm saying? Pesci, for like him and Bob Hoskins, rose up in that big year of 1980. Hoskins for The Long Good Friday with Helen Mirren, which is a great movie. I think what people should do, ladies and gentlemen, is realign, have a drive-in where you're seeing all the best movies of one year. I would love to see a triple header of Ordinary People, Raging Bull, and A Long Good Friday. Boys, that will be a dusk to dawn stuff. So, Raging Bull, I give it 4 stars out of 5. De Niro's performance is 5 stars, so is Pesci's. Moriarty around 3.5, 4. But Scorsese, I give a 0. Because he shouldn't have done the movie at that time, because he was still having a hatred towards women and someone coming off a bad drug overdose like he did. He should have waited, because there was a better movie he could have done. But the problem is, there was a lot of pressure on him, and these producers were big on his back. But I tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, just a little bit. The only criticism I have is for certain critics who basically say, well, De Niro's in it, and so is Pesci, and so is Scorsese, so it's got to be the best movie. Well, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Robert Redford did a much better job at Ordinary People, because he reined in, married to Tyler Moore's Ice Queen negativity. Timothy Hutton's performance is the lead, but he got more publicity, and there was some pity because Jim Hutton was his father. Unfortunately passed away in weird circumstances. So Raging Bull, give it a look. And if it's hard to believe that boxing doesn't count anymore. There was a period, Jesus Christ, from the time Chevalo and Ali and all those big fighters rose in the early 60s, about the Tyson era. 2004, it kind of all fell apart. Because Holmes was gone, Tyson was gone, Holyfield was gone. It's almost like a different universe that we live in now, where boxing, we wait all week for the boxing fight, and Jake LaMotta was a radio star, and his fights against Robinson, don't watch it back to back, because you're going to see a lot of dark blood fall. But the cinematography in this is one of the best of all time. But great cinematography does not have a good movie make. You can make love to a woman perfectly in bed, but if you fight outside of it, that's not a relationship or a marriage. It's got to be the whole package. Now, if a certain actress was young enough to play that, but they weren't going to cast Sissy Spacek because she was already Cole Mander's daughter. So that's probably the only other person. But Sissy's not statuesque. They needed someone who has kind of a Nordic look to her, like Jennifer Lawrence, that kind of tall, natural person. So again, Raging Bull, not the best movie in 1980, but a top 5 movie of the 1980s. That's saying a lot. So for the whole package. Anyway, it's like a box of chocolates. There's going to be some hard candies you don't like. But Kathy Moriarty, a great performer, but she's kind of typecast as that ingenue villain. Anyway, and she was good in the Cunanan murder mystery episodes as the person who was a coin buyer, of all people. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our screenshots, movie reviews, let us know when you like, comment, subscribe, or share. Bye.